Back to our coverage on the unidentified object shot down over North America. We are joined now by the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. He's Jamil Jaffer. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Good morning.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
So the big question that everyone's asking, is it aliens?
Well, I think it's pretty clear now, Mitch, that it's definitely not aliens, even though the commander of NORAD said that he hadn't excluded any possibilities when asked if it might be an alien or extraterrestrial aircraft. It's clear now that these are surveillance aircraft. We don't know exactly from what nation, but NORAD's statement that came out late yesterday indicated that the most recent third object was shot down over Lake Huron was because it was believed to be engaged in surveillance activities. So that's the latest we know. We don't know exactly from who or why these aircraft are here, why the government has decided to take aggressive action at this point, which is probably the right thing to do. But it does appear that they believe these aircraft were conducting surveillance over sensitive military sites over the last few days and probably for longer.
Okay, so not aliens. I got you. But seriously, what is going on, though? Because we never were aware, at least as the American public, of spy balloons or other objects that were up in the sky until this Chinese balloon sort of showed up over Montana. Now we've shot down, along with Canada, 4 in just the past week. So what is going on? Are we being surveilled more than ever? Has there been a recalibration of radar? Should we expect more of this activity?
Well, Mitch, it's interesting. Not only were we, the American public, not aware, but it appears the U.S. government was not as aware as it perhaps should have been. What it appears is going on here is that after the Chinese spy balloon was detected earlier this month and shot down over South Carolina on February 4th, the FAA and NORAD in particular has changed its filtering for its radars, which are normally designed to filter out smaller and perhaps slow-moving objects to really focus on key targets of interest. In order to identify more of these objects, as a result of this change in our filtering, they've identified more objects, they've scrambled more jets, ultimately determining that some of these were there inappropriately and perhaps conducting surveillance activities. And ultimately, a decision was made twice by President Biden to shoot down these new unidentified objects, and once by Prime Minister Trudeau, cooperating with NORAD, and shot down ultimately by an American F-22 Raptor on Saturday.
And let me ask you this. China claimed that first spy balloon. They said it was hobbyist of some sort, just lost control of their balloon. Sure. Let me ask you, though, are they responsible for the other 3? And if not them, who else would they belong to?
It's a great question, Mitch. I think the government hasn't yet told us who they believe is responsible for these balloons. I think China is a likely suspect when it comes to who might be responsible. I should say for these new unidentified objects. We don't know that they're balloons, although Senator Schumer did use the word balloons to describe these latest objects. The other possibility is Russia. They have capabilities in this space as well. Outside chance, North Korea or Iran, but probably not likely. Almost certainly China or Russia engaged in surveillance activities. And by the way, it looks like they've successfully gotten away with it. The other interesting thing, Mitch, is that there are aviation analysts online, in particular Tyler Rogoway, who suggested that what's actually going on here is this is an attempt to test our defenses so that when we light these things up with our radars and the like, they can determine the effectiveness and capabilities of those systems. If that is in fact the case, this has been a pretty successful mission for these small objects that have ultimately been shot down.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing surveillance and we haven't noticed them for weeks or months on end, that's pretty bad for us. But I am curious, too, about the Biden administration's response to these things. Obviously, they let one of them drift all the way across the country before shooting it down over open waters. But there was a recent one that was shot down over eastern Alaska, so pretty much as soon as it entered American airspace. The one that was shot down yesterday was shot down over Lake Huron. And so the Biden administration seems to not be playing any more games. They're not going to let these things drift across the country anymore.
Well, I think that much is clear, and it's clear that their criteria for when to take these aircraft down and the potential for any issues on the ground has changed dramatically just in the last week. They obviously let the very large Chinese spy balloon that was first detected over Montana make it all the way across the eastern United States, over the South Carolina coast before it was shot down. Now, as you point out correctly, we've seen 3 shoot downs, one over Alaska, one over the Yukon territories, and ultimately this latest one over Lake Huron. It's worth noting, Mitch, that the one that we just shot down on Sunday was first detected Saturday. They did scramble fighter jets over Montana, but were unable to find it and ultimately determined it might have been a radar anomaly. Now they're saying that, in fact, it was still there. They just couldn't find it, and then ultimately found it again on Sunday and took it down.
And I want to ask you, too, about the appearance of these things, because obviously we saw the balloon, the one that was actually labeled a balloon and looked like a balloon. We saw it explode. Okay, so that's one. Now, the one that was shot down over eastern Alaska on Friday, I'm just reading a quote here, was not similar in size or shape to the balloon. And the information that we have from Sunday's shoot down over Lake Huron says that this one was octagonal and had strings coming off of it. So, back to the idea that this is China or somebody else, is it possible here that China or somebody else is deploying multiple different types of unidentified floating objects with different surveillance capabilities, trying to figure out which one breaks our defenses? What would be the reason for the different appearance or different type of objects here as deployed potentially by a foreign actor?
Right. No, Mitch, I think you have it exactly right. I think there's a number of reasons why they might be deploying different types of aircraft. You're exactly right that some of them might be to test our defenses. Some might have different collection capabilities. Some may not just be balloons. They may be drones or the like. We don't know exactly what these objects are or how they're maneuvering around. What we heard over the weekend with these three unidentified objects were all three of them don't appear to have an obvious method of propulsion. They're probably not drones. They may very well be some form of balloons. The first two objects that we saw that were shot down over the weekend were described as silver in color, cylindrical in shape, much smaller than the Chinese spy balloon, maybe about the size of a small car. We don't have any more details other than, as you point out, the octagonal shape of the third object, but it does appear that these objects may be related one to another, but may have different capabilities and may be used for being used for different purposes by our adversaries. See what we can do, see what we can identify, and then ultimately see how our radars light them up and how our missiles work when they're shot at them right before they're taken down.
I feel like the term floating a trial balloon might be a bad pun, but it might actually be true here. My final question to you, aren't we doing this too? I don't think anybody's better in the spy game than the United States. So do we have U.S. balloons out there over China, over Russia? Are we doing something similar as what we've discovered here?
Well, Mitch, I'm not aware of whether we have any balloons or the like. Obviously, it's well known that the United States has surveillance satellites in orbit that identify threats to the United States. We obviously have a lot of other collection methodologies. Historically, we had the U-2, we had the SR-71. We know that we have various drones that have surveillance capabilities as well. It's possible, but there's been no suggestion to date that we're flying those kind of aircraft into adversary airspace, violating international law, violating their rights, the way that these devices and these aircraft are over U.S. airspace. So look, the U.S. is well within our rights to shoot these aircraft down. We're also within our rights to force them down in any other way we choose to. And so that's the truth going forward. Now, the Chinese have said that we violated international conventions by shooting down a spy balloon. There's no merit to that claim whatsoever.
Wow, I hadn't heard that, but that's why we have you on, because you're the expert. That's Jamil Jaffer with the National Security Institute. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Mitch.